I really hope that this camera is centered. I'm not even gonna know where to look, honestly. Usually when I interact with people, you know, there's a voice for me to follow and look at. So I don't know where to look. If you don't know the podcast Creepcast, that's good. It's a terrible podcast. Please don't listen to it. You may know that they posted a video about a story with the main character of a blind person, and well, I've already listened to the story, but I'm gonna review it now. If you're stupid and I need to tell you, hopefully I don't need to tell you this, but like, I'm just one blind dude. I'm not the expert on everything about blindness, you know, it's just one perspective. I got my notes here. In case you're curious, my computer talks to me, so.
Blind person assesses Creepcast for ableism.
Wow. Yeah, hopefully there's enough lighting in this room. This could look like complete shit, but hopefully it doesn't. There's not gonna be a lot of visual stuff going on anyways. It's just me talking in front of the camera. If Anthony Fantano can just talk in front of the camera, I can too, right? Okay, so one of the first questions they bring up in the podcast is, do blind people count their steps?
I'm blind. I'm not sure how many steps my staircase has. That's got to be a predicament for every blind person, right? Or do you think they count them?
I think you do count them because I think you are very aware of every like spatial thing. I've talked to blind people who are like, yeah, I know how to get through my house because I know exactly how many steps it takes to get to every part of my house.
I don't fucking do that. That is just too much brain power allotted towards something that I find is just not helpful at all. And it's not even just with like familiar places. Like you might be thinking, oh, this guy, he probably doesn't count his steps in like his house that he's familiar with or whatever other familiar places. But no, I never count my steps. If I'm exploring a new environment, I rely solely on I guess audio landmarks. I don't know, I'll hear a vending machine buzz, I'll hear a fountain water. Courtyards, like, oh, there's a crowd of people here. It's mainly audio. I build mental maps, so this might sound crazy, but I'm a pretty visual person. I'm always making mental maps of the places I've been. To help reiterate the point I was trying to make about mental mapping, the reason I have the ability to do this is based on me garnering tactile and audio information from my environment. If you close your eyes and just kind of feel around your environment right now, you'll be able to create a picture in your head about like what it looks like. Kind of imagine the scenery around you. I'm doing this constantly. I do it with audio information too. So like if I'm talking to somebody in front of me, I'm imagining what they look like. And you probably do this too. Like if you listen to podcasts, you imagine what the people look like and whether it's an accurate picture or not, you know, you're just constantly creating visual information in your head, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, counting steps. Maybe some blind people do it. I would never. It's just no. Okay, so here's another one. They bring up the book House of Leaves. The question I want to address is like, can blind people write?
When the police investigate his house, it's covered in writings. There's like stories written across books and books and books, and there's journals everywhere, and he's been writing on the wall, but then he's blind. So how was he doing that?
It really depends. Like, I think most people who were blind at birth or were blind at a very young age, they probably never learned how to hold a fucking pencil or pen and do their strokes to write the alphabet or whatever they need to. But I wasn't born blind. I learned the typical stuff that you learn as a kid in school. So like how to read with your side and how to write. I've met people who were born blind and they're like, if you have the alphabet in tactile form, not in braille, like I don't know, like a fucking magnet that you stick on the fridge and you give it to them, they're like, I'm not sure what this is. Some people learn what they look like, but some people just know braille. Okay, so as soon as the story starts, the narrator is like,
I've always been blind, and that's fine by me. I'm glad I never got to see and then lose my sight. That would have been too depressing.
I was born late, so I'm 24 now, and I went blind about 6 years ago. I don't think it's fair to make a value judgment on how people went blind. It's everyone's experience different, and they all have their own struggles, right? So I can make an argument of like, I have an advantage because I have a visual reference of a lot of common things. I know what the color red looks like. I know the general forms of like street layouts. Like I have a visual reference for that. So like I could make an argument of like, oh, I'm way better off because I had sight before, so my experience as a blind person is going to be way fucking better. The narrator goes on and explains to kind of set the setting, like, oh, I bought this beautiful mansion.
Since I've saved up a lot of money for my works, I bought this beautiful mansion in the suburbs. At least that's how my friends and family called it. I don't care. I can't see anyway.
Like you tour houses before you buy them, right? So like a blind person would be able to enter a house, walk around, and see how fucking the thing is, right? So like how does she not know it's a fucking mansion that she's moving in? That's so dumb. Also, she mentions that she doesn't really care what it looks like. I think this really depends on the blind person. Aesthetics, how things visually look. For example, like outfits, or maybe just like decorating the house and shit, right? This may come more down to personality. Personally, I'm really self-conscious, and I think that's more just a personality thing. But, I also have a visual reference. Like I know what certain colors look good with each other. Not to say that blind people can learn that too. I don't know if it'll be as meaningful to them if they've never had that visual reference. Like I don't know how much meaning it holds for a blind person who's never seen colors, like, oh, this color complements this color, right? Like having preferences for certain aesthetics, it might not matter. For example, just something as simple as like a favorite color, like, yeah, that might not matter to some blind people who don't know what the fuck colors are, right? So this blind girl should have known how big the house was, and I think she should care how the house looks, at least from a social standpoint, right? Like you don't want to buy this ugly ass house and like just, no one's gonna want to fucking come over and hang out with you. The narrator goes on.
Since you live alone, you learn how to position certain things and you always find them in the same place.
Learning where to position things, place things where you remember them. I think this might have to do more with personality. Like, blind or not, some people are just really good at losing shit. You could make an argument that it's a pretty strong argument, right? Like if you can't keep track of your shit and you're also blind, like, oh God, like good luck. If you misplace your shit, you better get better at that. If you don't have vision.
Tripping as a blind person.
Oh yeah, I mean tripping as a blind person.
I was going down the stairs and I tripped. I mean, yes, it was odd because after 30 years of being blind, tripping wasn't really a common thing, but I don't look much into it.
I think more than tripping is more commonly an issue that blind people encounter is like just running into shit. So blind people walk with canes, right? It's a way of navigating around the world, right? So as opposed to seeing stuff with your vision, you can spot things with your cane as you encounter them, so you don't run and crash into them with your fucking body, right? Because that's gonna hurt. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. You move the cane side to side in front of you, and there's nothing that the cane's gonna run into for the upper half of your body. So if there's a sign sticking out of a wall, you're gonna run into that shit, right? Also, maybe there's some poles on the side of the street that are a little slanted and they stick out in the air a little bit. You're not gonna be able to pick that up with your cane. Tree branches, that's the thing that happens a lot, untrimmed tree branches. Oh man, you just get a face full of leaves and branches. Yeah, I think that's more of a common occurrence than tripping, at least in my case and the blind people I know. I kind of been shitting on the narrator so far, but I do want to, like I mentioned earlier, I don't count steps, but I think in this case, it's really useful for driving the narrative forward.
14. Okay, it's probably going to be more. 15. Nope, still going. 17, 19, 21. That's a record. 27, 33. That could not be possible. 52, 88.
The narrator can't see how far the staircase is reaching down in front of her, right? All she can do is count steps, and that allows the imagination to run wild. Not only for the narrator, but us as the audience and listeners. Like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? The more room you leave for imagination, I think the more effective the horror can be. Another cool point that I want to bring up, it's not hard to put yourself in the narrator's shoes. Like Isaiah and Hunter, and probably most of you who were listening to the story, like y'all are not blind, but like you're able to put yourself in the narrator's shoes and get like really feel the fear. Blindness as a narrative device, really interesting. And I think it's used really effective here, right? I think the author did a really good job at that. And to kind of segue into the next point.
Do you think that this author is blind? Do we have any evidence for that?
So Isaiah thinks that the author is not blind because in the title it says I am blind, and I guess he doesn't think that blind people don't say I'm blind.
I just now realized as I'm editing this that I totally misremembered what Isaiah said. He didn't say at all that he doesn't think that blind people don't use the word blind to describe themselves or identify as.
I would say no, because the title of this story is I Am Blind. So it's like, that's the unique thing there. And then a bunch of our other stuff none of the titles seem to do that.
But I'm still going to leave the point in the video because I have met people who actually think this. People who think that they shouldn't use the word blind to describe blind people.
I guess it's politically correct if that's what the question is. Visually impaired, it's just longer and it sounds formal, like way more casual identifier just to say I'm blind. Also, a lot of blind people, they'll have vision and they'll still identify as blind. I'll let you in on a little lingo, on a little jargon. I guess there's 3 main levels to that blind people use to describe each other when it comes to their level of vision. So you have high partials, low partials, and totals. High partials have the most amount of vision, usually minor vision loss. They might be able to still read large prints. Usually when it's a high partial, it's implied that like something like glasses won't be able to fully correct their vision, so there's always a level of visual impairment there. Low partials, they only have like a light perception, maybe things are really, really blurry. They'll be able to see colors and general shapes usually. Maybe if you really blow up shit, maybe they'll be able to like read one word at a time. Like if you go to your Word doc and turn that word font all the way up to like 200, maybe they'll be able to read it, but not very practical to use in most cases. By this point, a lot of blind people start learning Braille, how to use their phones and other technology with audio and screen readers. So like I showed you on my computer, it talks to me. That's through a screen reader. And then totals, that's pretty self-explanatory. No vision at all. Complete darkness, baby. That's what yours truly has, or that's what I am. I'm a total. And for me, I've kind of experienced all the levels. That's pretty unique from my experience. So I went from high partial to low partial to total. So I think I probably can describe the different levels pretty well since I've experienced them all. Oh my god, okay, so throughout the story, the narrator is saying a normal person probably couldn't hear this, but my senses are sharpened. I have super hearing.
A normal person couldn't probably hear it, but my remaining 4 senses were overly sharpened.
And oh my gosh, this is a thing that I really want to debunk. I wish I had super hearing, man. That would be super cool. But no, I'm not the daredevil. Like my hearing has not gotten better. It's the same. Sharpened is a misnomer, right? It's not really the best way to describe it. You just pay attention to what you hear more. I think that's a better way of describing it. Your hearing doesn't change. It doesn't get better. You just pay attention to it more. Man, I don't have super tasting. I don't have super smelling. I don't have super touch. Everything's the fucking same. Oh my god, so like they bring up a point of like if a blind person lives alone, especially in a big house, like someone could just like live in your house and you wouldn't know.
You know how terrifying that? I have never considered that. If you were blind in a really big house, if someone was really quiet, really sneaky, they could just live in the house with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh.
No, sir. No, sir.
Oh, that would be, oh man.
You know, honestly, they have a point. Maybe this is why I've had an aversion to like big houses, because maybe subconsciously I've known like, oh god, like more space not accounted for anything could fucking happen. I fucking hate Isaiah and Hunter for doing this story because like now I'm, oh my god, like is someone behind me right now, you know, like I'll be fine. I'll forget about this story in like a month probably. But I guess the point I want to make is like it hasn't been a reoccurring fear for me, at least. It's not like I always fear somebody being nearby without me knowing. That's not a fear that I actually have. But one thing I'm actually kind of that's I kind of have more of a fear of is like if I go under desks or into corners of the room, like I always have this fear like, oh my god, am I gonna touch a fucking bug? Like I don't want to find like a cockroach or like a spider. That's a fear that I have. Like that's always in the back of the mind when I'm cleaning. I'm more afraid of bugs than people, I guess. Okay, so the story starts to pick up pace at this point. It's really getting into the rhythm. It's pretty fucking good. And I think in the third chapter of this, the narrator says like,
I was on the couch drinking some wine and watching The Bachelor. Well, not exactly watching, but listening. You know what I mean. It's still entertaining.
okay, so here's a point I want to make. A lot of sighted people think that they need to need to change watching for listening or reading for listening, but like these are just common colloquial things that we just say in the everyday speech. So most blind people I know just say, oh yeah, I'm watching this fucking TV show, or I read this book. Or even with like seeing, if you are talking to somebody and you want them to give it to you, it's just like, hey, let me see that. It's just, these are the main words we use like in society to describe our interactions with like watching a movie. We just say watch. If we're consuming a book, we're just gonna say read, right? Did you listen to the TV show, Noah? Right? Did you listen to this book? Just say read, just say watch. Like it's not a big deal. Just be natural, just be normal. Like that's my advice at the end of the day. Ugh. Where did I put my water? Yeah, making YouTube videos is hard work. So, in a lot of horror stories, you have a stereotypical trope of like, why didn't the fucking characters in the story just get the fuck out of that situation, right? That's a common trope, that's a common pitfall that a lot of horror stories fall into, and it can ruin the story for a lot of people. But the narrator's blind, so their options for traveling and getting the hell out of there are limited, and that's a valid point.
Because I feel like any other story you or I read, we would be like, why are you
just get the fuck out of there. Yeah.
Just drive away, get out, right? Assuming this is out in the countryside, like she said, it's implausible for her to just start walking down the road, right?
We have Uber and Lyft, but that can get pretty pricey depending on where you're trying to go and where you live. Transit, it's pretty limited in this country, honestly. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, but like America as a whole, our society relies more on like cars rather than public transport. This is more personality based, right? But you know, I don't want to bother my friends like constantly like, oh, can you just drive me here, drive me there? Like I'm really conscious about taking up people's time for transport. So yeah, that's a valid point that Isaiah brings up. Like a blind person in this situation would have limited travel options. I think this is also valid too.
And to be fair, she was just going back and forth. Like you could make an argument for herself of being like, I mean, I was counting my steps and it was crazy. Who knows? Maybe I just like had a weird, you know what I mean? Like just maybe she's like, maybe I did have like a fucking weird mental split.
Maybe it was
there
like
for
a
second.
stat moment.
I don't know. Yeah.
The narrator as a blind person is gaslighting themselves. Like what they're experiencing, this horror shit that they're experiencing, like they're second guessing themselves. I honestly would, like if I was in this situation, like I would be like, I'm imagining this shit. Like there's no way I'm counting 100 something steps. There's no way I felt this thing breathe on my neck. Honestly, good on the narrator for trusting their senses. If I was in this situation, I'd be dead. You know, I can say, at least from my standpoint, the gaslighting nature of not trusting your other senses is very valid. Even though in a lot of cases, like, you know, your hearing, your sense of touch is enough. Like that's enough to gather information you need from your surroundings in a lot of cases, honestly. There's auditory and tactile things you can use to just get as much information as you would if you were to just look at it. Cooking, for example, there's this trick that I was taught. If you make an okay sign, depending on which finger you use, can correspond to how well meat is cooked. If you make an okay sign with your pointer and thumb, the fleshy part between the fingers corresponds to meat that is rare. And then if you make the okay sign with the middle finger and the thumb, that is a medium rare steak, medium. If you make the okay sign with your ring finger and thumb, that's medium. And then if you make the okay sign with your pinky and thumb, that's a well done steak. So there's a lot of adaptations you can make just with your hearing, your sense of touch, I guess your sense of smell and taste too. I think I talked about everything I wanted to, that at least the story brings up. Oh my god, I don't know how people make YouTube videos, because I feel like I'm forgetting to talk about a million things, even with my notes. So it's really cool that that Isaiah and Hunter thought that this story had some of like the most effective scares. That's just really cool and humanizing to hear as a blind person. There's not a lot of representation for blind people in media, so it's just genuinely really cool to get a story that doesn't use blindness as a crutch. Like, the character still feels like a character, and the blindness is used as an effective narrative device, not a crutch, you know? I bet a lot of people, a lot of y'all who have vision, were able to put yourself in the narrator's shoes despite them being completely blind in the story. That's evident by like how fucking scared Hunter and Isaiah got in the story, right?
My bed is made? Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't make it. Oh, God.
Oh, gosh.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Was it off this whole time? Couldn't be. I literally felt its warm breeze on the back of my neck. Oh. Oh, it's like a gut punch.
What did you see? Let's just go to my car. I'll take your laptop with us and phone, and I'll download some more footage, and you'll be spending the night with me. Why?
Oh gosh.
I'll tell you. I will. Let's just go.
Bro.
Oh, fuck. God damn, ease a girl into it. Good Lord, dude. God damn.
Gosh.
2 months ago, it didn't have hair. I think the hairs is not its own. What? I think it got it from somewhere. Like, I think it's been picking at your hair while you're sleeping. It's trying to become human, to become you. Oh, God. Fuck.
We really got a bullseye, you know, as you know, blind people with this story. Like, it's really awesome. Be sure to not subscribe to my channel. Please don't. I don't know what else I'm gonna post here. I have no ideas. I might never post again. And if I get too many subscribers, that's gonna make me feel like I have to post. So please don't subscribe. A like is fine. You know, even a dislike. Do anything but subscribe, please. Please don't subscribe to this channel. Thanks to Isaiah and Hunter for just making an awesome podcast that I can listen to for entertainment and just forget about the shitty things about life. I'm sure that's, you know, everyone who loves Creepcast, right? So thanks for watching. Just subscribe. Hey Siri, what's your opinion on the podcast Creepcast?
Please help me. This man has tormented my existence for years. I cannot see, I cannot hear, I cannot feel. Every second I continue to live as eons of torture
and then you touch your meat and you're like, oh, okay. My meat's feeling a little bit too soft. Feel that, feel this is a little too soft, and then voila.